Jack. All right. You got this stuff?
Yeah. All cleaned and oiled.
Oh, yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Let's get it on.
Who are these guys?
It's my theme music. Every good hero should have some.
Hot damn, it's time to get down to the jam. It's time to get down, it's time to get down, it's time to get down to the jam. I said it's time to get down to the knowledge, gonna get on down with the know. On the morning coffee show, on morning coffee with Keith, here on Pop Culture Minefield.
Excuse me, can I get a cup of coffee? Black?
Can't you see we talking?
White?
Hello, everybody.
Good morning.
It has been a rather unusual morning. Some segments of it longer than others. But we are here, and we are ready to have some fun. I am rather kind of excited about the future of Paramount and Warner Brothers, and I know there are quite a few people out there that aren't, including one particular person who runs who has their own YouTube show where they've been basically predicting doom and gloom since Netflix decided to throw in the towel. I don't look at it that way. I can see all kinds of upsides, and now that it looks like the owners of this new company are negotiating right now with Netflix, somebody's decided to use that as kind of like their own little projection that, ooh, look, Paramount's really in trouble. They might have to sell. No, idiot. They're not doing that. What's going on is that they're basically doing what they've been doing all along. It turns out that Skydance and eventually Paramount have several deals with both Apple and with Netflix. And this predates all of the stuff with Warner Brothers. So they have a relationship with them, and it looks like they're trying to do more negotiations and ultimately end up doing what I said weeks ago was a great outcome if Paramount and Skydance were to get Warner Brothers, which is negotiate with Netflix, who can just throw a lot of money at them for what they'll eventually basically get anyway. There's no reason for Netflix to do a lot of what they did other than the fact that they were running out of ideas. And had they gotten a hold of everything, I don't really see any upsides to them really having all of this stuff. But that's just my opinion, you know. But I've been able to go through all of this stuff and just pick out certain things that I think are important as far as helping this new company get fans excited. And by getting fans excited, you know, you turn out some quality stuff, people have a habit of giving you money, which ultimately is really what all this is about. What do you think, Ben?
Well, I mean, first off, some people are just not happy without some doom and gloom. I mean, you know,
That's
this
true.
is cursed, that is cursed. You're not happy without a good curse. But as far as it goes, I mean, this is the thing I've always run into. People will try and predict and try and predict and try and predict. But the weird thing is that what they predict, what actually happens, never the same thing. It's always so different because you have, you know, First of all, you're getting with creative people. Nothing's predictable. As a creative person, I will say nothing I do is predictable. You know, so it's hard to look at something and go, yeah, no, this is going to happen this way. No, so it's not gonna. Nothing's guaranteed to happen a certain way. So yeah, it's one of those things. Well, okay. Now that I'm trying to remember his name, astrophysicist. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yes, Neil deGrasse Tyson. Thank you. My God, my brain is on is Neil deGrasse Tyson has a quote that I just adore. And it's sometimes, you know, in reaching for answers in a cosmic, you know, on a cosmic level, you just have to learn to love the question. And that's paraphrasing it badly. But I think that's the thing is I think we have in this particular situation with what could happen, we have to sit there and look at it and go, you know, the possibilities are endless. Let's enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, it's you can't just sit here and go, oh, all doom and gloom, or all, you know, oh, you know, roses and unicorns. You know, just we have the potential for it's Schrodinger's creative decisions.
Yeah.
We don't know if it's going to be good or bad until it happens. But I think spending all of our time assuming it's going to be bad is just a waste of energy.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, there's so many other ways that we could spend that energy.
Oh, I agree. Although speculation's a lot of what fans have been doing since really fans have started. The difference is that now a lot of these fans, myself included, have access to being able to tell other people on a large scale what we are thinking and play those particular things out. The difference is, you know, there's a difference between speculation and news and information that is really necessary. You can speculate all day long, but that's not the same as news, and it's not the same as actually knowing what's going to happen.
Precisely. We fans, we love to speculate, and that's
geez,
great.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what we're doing this morning.
That is true. That is true.
That's what this entire episode is all about.
It is. It's a massive speculation. You know, I've been looking through everything that they have, all of the IPs, all of the popular stuff that both Paramount. Hello, Gambit.
Good morning,
Paramount
Gambit.
Has.
Morning, Gam.
And that Warner Brothers has. Now that they are all part of one big thing, my thing is like, okay, let's check out what's going on. Get past a lot of this doom and gloom that's being thrown at us by people who, for whatever reason, seem to think that having Paramount fail and not get Warner Brothers is somehow going to bring them happiness or something. I'm not getting how that works with them. And some people are really blatant with their biases like that. Looking at one certain person. But the thing is that, you know, there's a lot of positive upsides that we could be talking about to try to bring joy. Look, I'll be the first to tell you, I've made it pretty clear that I'm definitely not going to be sad to see the door hit Alex Kurtzman on the backside on the way out. Okay, I just didn't like anything he was doing at all. And I probably would have given him more of a chance if he were to actually have been a fan of Star Trek. And he wasn't. You know, that part of it, I think he's been stretching the truth a bit. And again, I get that information based on people who I have actually talked to, people who Gary and I have actually talked to on this show, who had a lot of behind the scenes information directly working with him. He is not a Star Trek fan. And it's pretty much been proven that he isn't. A lot of what he did was about basically taking advantage of the contract that he had. And I personally believe that a lot of the changes that were made were to make it easier for merchandising and to put money in his pocket. That is my belief. I know that there are some people who believe differently, and that's fine. But I'm not just sitting here going, yeah. I'm basing it on the things that I've seen. And if he truly were a Star Trek fan, he probably would have given up that contract and let Paramount take over years ago, but he didn't. You know, he was interested in profiting big time from this. It is just, it's just that there are way too many fakers. I think too many people that believe it's important to try to pass themselves off as fans when they clearly are not. And I don't believe you have to lie to get people interested. Okay? You have to be truthful. I mean, again, take a page out of Richard Donner's book. Richard Donner did not try to pass himself off as the biggest Superman fan out there. He was very honest about what he enjoyed and what he didn't know. That's one of the things that I will always look up to him for, is that he was honest. And a lot of these people nowadays are not being honest. They're out there really dividing fans on purpose. Whether you're talking Star Trek, Star Wars, there's a lot of people who quote unquote are official people who believe in causing as much chaos because it takes a lot of attention away from how they may have failed, or in the ways that what they may be producing may not be that good. I am just not a fan of a lot of the modern day techniques used to divide the fandom and to keep us occupied and at each other's throats. Because again, they have managed now to get an entire generation of young people to believe that all fandom does is just argue in bad faith. When in actuality, people could have different ideas. They could make different proclamations about what they consider great, whether it's the DC fandom and the Marvel fandom, and a lot of them just really don't understand that it was a lot of fun to do that, and that you didn't hate the other person after you were done talking about it. You know, that ticks me off more than anything else. They are purposely trying to hurt this fandom, all fandom. And that's not what I'm about. That's not what Gary's about. That's not really what a lot of people are about. We're about trying to at least bring them the truth of what we have seen ourselves, what we've experienced, and, hopefully have some fun with a lot of this stuff. And I hope with this particular episode to get people to at least think about a few things that could be fun. You know, let's see. Shanatsky says Andy Weir of Project Hail Mary did pitch. He did say Kurtzman is nice to deal with. Probably how he's been able to stay in his position. Probably, yes, because he has the ego. He has an ego so big. I think even a certain political person might even have a contest to see whose ego is bigger. I think the greatest falsehood that has been perpetrated on Star Trek fans is that Paramount didn't want Star Trek Legacy, when in actuality, they do. They just didn't have the ability to be able to do anything with it because of the contract. Oh, wait a minute. You mean Kurtzman's been in charge of it the entire time? Yes. That information's never changed. And it's amazing to me how many so-called fans could continue to create sort of like a lapse in their memory and actually understanding how all this works. Kurtzman has pulled the wool over your eyes into thinking that Paramount were the ones that decided to poo-poo Star Trek Legacy, when in actuality, Kurtzman's ego decided not to go forward, and he decided to pursue Star Trek Academy. He could have done Star Trek Legacy, but he wanted Star Trek Academy instead, because that's the way it works. You know, he did not like Picard Season 3 for obvious reasons.
Because it was good.
It was good, and it wasn't his ideas. And he slow walked in getting Terry Matalas on his team, because he knew that if Terry were somehow doing something else, if he decided to make Star Trek Legacy, he could make it the way that he wanted, and not the way that Terry Matalas had envisioned. This is all relatively simple. Yeah.
I have to admit, I am in agreement of pursuing Star Trek Academy into a ravine. Yeah, man. I am more angry at that show that everybody that start hating the show even before its existence, because I gave it a chance.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see I could see a good show buried under tons of stupidity.
Yeah.
And I really wanted. I saw 4 episodes of it, and I said, I cannot be here only by a potential that will be always not achieved, but dismissed. And
and you know, thing is I enjoyed it.
Yes. Yes, first of all, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I am glad that there is somebody that I actually know that enjoyed it.
Well, and here's the difference between various shows. For instance, I couldn't get into Picard after 2 episodes into season 1. I just and I just kind of left it on the floor, you know, all the way through. I've seen good parts of it. You know, I've seen some good snippets of it and everything, but it just didn't draw me in. By the same token, I loved Enterprise. I loved Enterprise from season 1, Star Trek Enterprise. You know, the Bagdilla project. Absolutely adored it. Watched it as it came out. Didn't jive on Voyager. Loved Deep Space Nine. Next Generation, hit or miss with me sometimes, but I watched every episode. Strange New Worlds, parts of it I loved, parts of it as Starfleet Academy, I watched every episode. And I enjoyed every episode. And that's the thing with any given Trek, any given Trek franchise. You're going to have people who love it. You're going to have people who hate it. And they're all fans. There are going to be fans who love it. There are going to be fans who hate it. You're never going to please everybody.
And that's the thing. You weren't. But again, I dislike what Kurtzman and his people have done for their end to try to get us to hate each other, when in actuality, in years past, you didn't have that problem. It's not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence that 2 of the major media outlets are actually owned by Secret Hideout and are used as mouthpieces to put stories and stuff and to keep things alive within the media. Now that Kurtzman will be losing control, full control over Star Trek, it'll be interesting to see what happens to those 2 outlets, because they do belong to him. But since Paramount will be in full control over the Star Trek license again, they won't have all of the inside story. It'll be interesting to see if they continue to try to do certain things. I fully suspect that either, if they are not shut down, they will become the dissenters of any new stuff. They will start running stories about how this is flawed, that is flawed, all the different problems connected to any of the new upcoming Trek projects that they have, because that's how petty he is. And again, I've never met Alex Kurtzman. You know, he probably has a lovely singing voice or some dumb stuff like that. All I do know is that I happen to have met and talked to more people who dislike the kind of person he is behind the scenes for the various reasons. Number one being that at least in his early career, you know, everybody has their jobs. Everybody's worked at different places, and you've seen all the different types of people that work various places. Alex Kurtzman was always that one person that nobody really liked. He was always that weaselly, everybody's got that one weaselly coworker who, when anything happens and the boss finds out, mysteriously, there's always that one person who somehow benefits from one of your coworkers being penalized for something that the boss wasn't supposed to find out about or fired, and that person seems to move up. And it happened a lot. And when you look at Alex Kurtzman's career and you start looking beyond the headlines, you see that a lot. You see a lot of people fall by the wayside, and mysteriously a guy who hasn't done very much move up. That and all the different lawsuits that he incurred upon many of the people that he worked for. And you don't see that with a lot of the other people who have been suggested to have been better fits for Star Trek over the years. So that's my thing. He just wasn't a good fit from the very beginning. And he never really said it out loud, but his actions were of those. It was somebody that just didn't like Star Trek. And there's nothing wrong with that. There was nothing wrong with him admitting that. He felt the need to counteract statements that he's already said. That's the other thing that I didn't like. He played very loosely with the truth. A lot. I at least got to give JJ credit for at least telling the truth when he made Star Trek in 2009. He at least told the truth. I was more of a Star Wars fan than a Star Trek fan. That's the truth. I can respect that. He may not have been a Star Trek fan making that film, but I respect the fact that he at least was truthful enough to say, okay, I wasn't big on it growing up, but I made this. Right. And, you know, I had fun watching the movie. It's not a very good representation of Star Trek according to the original series, but I had a lot of fun watching it. You know. And out of everybody that created that, there was only one person that was part of the creative team that was not a Star Trek fan, a self-admitted non-Star Trek fan. And they made JJ look like the biggest Star Trek nerd out there, and that was Alex Kurtzman. He said it himself on camera. And you notice how that does not get brought up a lot, if ever. He really wants people to forget that. And I and others didn't. You know, again, just be truthful. There's no reason to lie. There's no reason to try to cover stuff up. I think I would have respected him more if he at least, like JJ, had come out and said certain things. But look, let's table this and go to what we're here to talk about, which is Paramount Warner Brothers and 5 things that they, 5 projects they could announce that could be very beneficial and get a lot of fans excited, Oh, here we go. James. Hey, James. He says, Keith, you are correct. Uh-oh. The pettiness is obvious, but I've always believed there's really no such thing as bad publicity, especially in today's day and age, anything that keeps you trending. Unfortunately, yes, you're right. That seems to be the way they play with it. Anything to keep their name.
I would ask that to Bill Cosby.
Bill Cosby ain't the only one, but you're right.
I mean, he's trending, but
I mean, And there's only one person that's had it a little worse than Bill Cosby, you know. And that's Diddy. I'm sure Diddy would rather not be
that kind of publicity, yeah, maybe.
Right?
Maybe with some of those things that I think Diddy would rather be Bill Cosby right now. I'm serious. Jeez. Anyway, Andy Morrow, hello to everybody in the chat. Okay, so let's get this going because this is fun. I'd like to think. So what we have here really is this massive company now, because that really is what it is. It's huge.
Mhm.
I think the only company that is comparable in size is Disney. And I got to tell you, I personally, again, am excited by what they could accomplish. And I think it's important to note that wow. Hold on. My notes are a little off. Here I am looking at my notes going, oh, that's a little off here. Anyway, so we're going to start with what I had at number 5. There are a lot of different IPs now that are a part of this new company. And hey, James Caserta, hail to you. There are a lot of different IPs that are a part of this now. And one of them is pretty much the same age. I mean, it's been around as long as Star Trek. It's one of the ones that people keep forgetting that has lasted as many years as Star Trek. In fact, if I think correctly, this is actually 1 year older than Star Trek as far as it's been around officially. Okay.
Mhm.
So this year marks the 61st anniversary of this particular IP. And at number 5, it's my idea was to return Mission Impossible to television. Oh, go ahead. You were going to say?
So, I love the original concept of Mission Impossible,
Mm-hmm.
which was what has become known as competency porn. You know,
Yes.
it is a team of experts doing expert things expertly.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yes. Using makeup and having somebody pretend to be someone else for a while, or
Mhm.
like they did in the movies, using advanced kind of sci-fi makeup techniques to literally turn someone into someone else.
Mhm.
But Bruce Geller's idea,
Mhm.
his original series, Mission Impossible, was one of the first major hits, or I should say, one of the last major hits that that was part of the original Desilu production studio. Star Trek wasn't really a hit for NBC, so it was one of the last pitched hits that they had, and that show was popular. With The Final Reckoning, which was the last movie that came out last year, serving as Ethan Hunt's swan song, it's time to return to the 66 roots, in my opinion. You don't literally have to do everything they did for back in the 60s, and I'm not talking about taking some of the scripts and reviving them and upping them for now. That's not what I'm talking about. But there's a lot of different things out there, and I think there is a place for Mission Impossible, especially given how continuously popular all of the recent movies have been. And by recent, I mean the Tom Cruise films,
Right.
comparatively. But I do think that it's time to move away from the one-man army thing and get back to the original concept of it being a team.
Yeah, because I mean, while he has a team, everything really is how spectacular can we make Ethan Hunt's stunts look?
Yeah, and with the way that they ended the last movie, you don't even need Ethan Hunt anymore, and that's the really cool thing. You can introduce some new characters, and go from there. What I like about what the films have done is they've introduced the concept of the Impossible Missions Force and how they fit in with our government. You know, I think we can. Go ahead, Ben. Go ahead.
Yeah, because in the original series, it was kind of vague.
It was very vague.
Yeah.
In fact, it saved them money not to have anybody else. You pretty much concentrated on the team and what they needed to do,
and not even on the characters, but on the heist. The original Mission Impossible, you never saw anything about the characters, their past, or anything like that. The whole focus was on, again, competent people being competent at the things that they're competent at. Because the whole focus was on what was happening, not. And I think that would have worked. I think that worked better in '66. I think that modern audiences demand something a little different. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. I wholeheartedly agree. I think it would be great to, in a way, use some of the original ways of doing things for the original series, but combine it with many of the concepts and ideas that you saw in films. And so if you were to try to introduce it now, if you did it exactly the way that Bruce Geller had done it in the 60s,
you would feel miserably.
you would lose a lot of your audience. And so my idea is, look, Tom Cruise is having a lot of success with the Reacher television show. For those of you who don't know, he's one of the producers.
Right.
So hold on, Real Popcorn Geek. The Dean Devlin produced Leverage series is akin to the OG Mission Impossible, only it starred thieves and con artists rather than secret agents. Yes, I agree. And that's kind of where I'm headed with this.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things, concepts, and even storylines that you could use as a basis for how you move forward with a brand new Mission Impossible series.
Yeah.
And the concepts introduced about how there are various teams. And I think Ethan Hunt, they even gave in these last three movies, they've even introduced the concept that picking people for these teams, that some of these people are not there voluntarily. And that's a very interesting concept.
It plays, the redemption arc plays really well because I mean, I have to agree with RPG. Leverage, one of the best things about Leverage is the redemption arc. Is that, finding out, hey, we kind of like doing things this way. This is kind of cool. And I like the idea that, that the IMF might have people on board who are like, look, I'm just here to, I'm just here as part of my parole. I'm just here to get years off my sentence,
Or you have people that are exiled, which is the concept that they introduced in the first movie. People who are who used to be with the IMF and who are no longer, are no longer sanctioned. And again, you have many other members of the team that Ethan Hunt has brought in over the years that found themselves non-sanctioned, like Luther, and had this incredible multi-movie redemption arc. And so I just dig the thought of having Mission Impossible back either on network TV or streaming with new episodes, with Tom Cruise as one of the producers,
Mm-hmm.
I think it'd work out. That's what I'm saying.
So, and I think the Real Popcorn Geek brings up an excellent point here, though. Any Mission Impossible series is going to have to compete with Leverage.
I don't think it'll have to compete that hard, but yes, I agree with you.
I think Leverage is, I think at this point the current team on Leverage is reaching kind of their end game as far as that
Yeah,
goes.
this is the second team or third team that they've had since they started.
Well, this is they've cycled out members and things like that. I think they're kind of running to the end of that arc without having to start completely over. And having to do it without Timothy Hutton, and such. I think, Mission Impossible would have to deal with that comparison constantly.
Yeah. Well, but the difference would be, like I had said earlier, the difference would be is that you have now almost 30 years of material from the movies that can be used that would definitively create a separation between anyone that would think that Mission Impossible is anything like any other project that you've seen before. Right. You have the interdepartment trust. You have, look, there are elements now of other things involved within the Mission Impossible universe. You have certain departments that don't enjoy the fact that you have either an entire department that they didn't know about, or as certain other departments, like, certain other official agencies like the CIA don't like the fact that they have these people running around causing confusion because, the FBI, I don't know if anybody knows this, but the FBI is all domestic and the CIA handles everything outside of the domestic United States. And so for them to have an agency that can basically operate in both areas steps on their toes a little bit.
Right.
And so they're not happy about it.
Right. It's like the local sheriff's department and the FBI getting pissed because a U.S. Marshal shows up and they can work anywhere.
Yes. Yes, that's exactly right. But that's only one aspect. Yeah. I mean, I would also use like some of the storylines that you have seen. They've hinted at having a school to teach people how to be members. You've got that angle. You also have
you're gonna hate me for this. Impossible IMF Academy.
Oh, geez, no. They also hinted at there's a Paula Patton's character from Mission Impossible. I think it was Mission Impossible 4. Had a relationship with another agent. And it was a serious relationship. This is before they even, I think, introduced that concept with Ethan Hunt's character. And so that other agent got killed, and she had an opportunity to confront the person who killed her lover, but also introducing the concept of with Ethan Hunt having taught several people already and having to confront the reality of watching one of his students die. There's so much wrapped up in all of the stuff that they've done. I really don't see this as being in any danger of being confused with Leverage or any other show, whether you're talking about 24 or whether you're talking about even a lot of the modern day, like the FBI shows. And that's so weird for me to say, I mean, for those of you younger than 50, one of the biggest shows on TV in the early 1970s was called The FBI. And that show was so popular. So to have a show on TV today called The FBI is so weird. I mean, it's just, but it's another example of CBS just diving right back into their library of IPs and just pulling stuff out that they already own, you know. But I think it'd be a cool idea to have it back, and it would be a really cool idea to see what they could come up with. And again, it would be very smart to have Tom as a producer, but it says here that he's not. It's Paula. Oh yeah, okay, I got that wrong. Yes, it's his ex-production partner, along with. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So it's everybody but Tom, basically. Yeah. Okay. Paula Wagner. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, got that wrong. Oh, and Christopher McQuarrie. Yes, I did know about Christopher McQuarrie. So basically, it's everybody but JJ and really Tom. It's everybody else is producing that, and that's cool. Reacher's great. Reacher's just a great show. I have a lot of fun with it. Let's see. And new Mission Impossible series won't have to complete with leverage, but more likely the NCIS shows. Again, probably, but it wouldn't be anything like that. I mean,
NCIS is a procedural.
Yeah.
Largely. At least it started off. I haven't watched it in years, but it starts off as a procedural and ends as a procedural. And NCIS, one of the good things about it was the development of characters, which is kind of something that a show like Mission Impossible, if you're kind of sticking to at least partially, don't overdo the the personal stuff.
Yeah, that's it. Again, you don't have to get into too much personal stuff, if at all, if you're going to do a television series. But again, there are a lot of story threads that the movies have put out there that because they're not making any more movies, it seems like you can just go ahead and use that for a television series and have multiple storylines that you have a universe that already exists. You're now just making a television series to basically search, to create within that. You've got all of this stuff already out there. See, if you were having to start from the very beginning, you were having to start from just nothing to basically bring Mission Impossible back, all of this stuff that everybody's saying, yeah, that would be something to consider. But you have these movies, you have the storylines within those films and everything that they've set up. So it's really not as big of an issue as you may think to have other TV shows that might play around with some of this stuff. Again, it's great, but we have these films and there's a lot of different places to go. There's a lot of different villains that you could pick up. And again, one of the things that I really appreciated is that towards the end of these movies, they started making callbacks to other sequences and things that have occurred within these films.
A little continuity is nice.
Yeah, there is a whole continuity within this, meaning that you've now legitimized the first movie again, because it seemed like a lot of them were trying to get away from the first film, and now you've reintroduced the concept of now the daughter of Max who's running things.
Right.
And I like the fact they went out and found the guy that was her bodyguard in the first movie and had him appear again to put Ethan Hunt's head in the bag again. I love that. It's just, there's, like I said, it's a universe. It's already established. You already have all this other stuff going on. I say take advantage of it. And that's really, that's really all I've said about the whole thing. It'd be a nice idea to do that, and something that I think would get a lot of fans excited.
Yeah.
And see, James says, what always set Mission Impossible apart from me were the cool gadgets, the use of disguises, and of course the cool song. Yes, yes, you can bring all that and more. You know, if you're lucky, you might get the members of U2 to record another updated version of the song. Who knows? You know. Let's see. Now, the other suggestion that I had was let's see. The other one was I think having a Mad Max limited series would also do well for them. But it's a series with a little bit of a twist.
Mm-hmm.
Now, most people would want to recast someone younger so they could just basically either tell a new set of stories or retell what's already been told. My idea is, why not just use the movies as sort of touchstone points within the story that you're trying to tell? And what I mean by that is, you have the first movie, Mad Max, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm talking about a television series, essentially. Why not just have the entire first season be set 1 year before the events of the first movie? To help establish that world, establish the characters, and to really bring more of an emotional weight to all of that. And instead of recasting, allow the movies to stand as they are and to become technically a part of what you're making. And so you do the entire first season, then you have the movie, and then you have the aftermath of that. So now you have season 2, post after the film.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can go like 2 seasons before you even get to the Road Warrior. And that's what I'm talking about doing. Producing seasons of a television series that connect all of the films closer and use the films as a touchstone point between tellings.
Right. So, and to clarify, I don't know if everybody knows this, but what we usually remember as the first Mad Max film, The Road Warrior, which is just, Mad Max 2.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about going back before Mad Max, which is prior to the apocalypse.
Yeah. Well, okay. The official title of all of these films goes Mad Max, Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior,
right?
Mad Max 3, Beyond Thunderdome,
Mm-hmm.
and that's really the trilogy right there. And then you have the other Mad Max film,
which is
I wouldn't touch that one because that one's kind of sort of somewhere between the second and third film. It seems like.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. It does feel like it's between Road Warrior and
because the black on black was still operative.
Yeah,
yeah.
The black on black, the Mad Max Interceptor.
Yeah, his Interceptor was still there. Yeah,
that is named the black on black.
I don't know why, Martin.
I'm a fan of the franchise. What can I say?
Hey, you know what? I mean, the man's got good taste.
And in every racing game in which I have that vehicle, I try to make it as an interceptor.
Right?
Wow. Okay. I've learned something today. Okay. You know what? That's going to affect how we go from here on out.
But
okay.
I wouldn't say it doesn't have continuity. I said the continuity is pretty much loose. But
yeah, it's a very loose continuity. And what I'm talking about is kind of finding a way to thread it through everything and creating a continuity by using the idea of a television series. And so in that way, kind of like Oh, Blocka says Mission Impossible kind of feels like 007, but for America. Kind of, sort of. Yeah, that was, I think, part of the pitch that, okay, Bruce Geller is the name you guys need to be using because he is the actual creator of Mission Impossible. Bruce Geller was trying to find a way of doing all of that, but to do it in a different way. Whereas 007's by himself, Bruce Geller wanted to create more of a team of people to make it a little more believable. Because there's a lot of stuff that, when you think about it, there's a lot of stuff that James Bond has a lot of luck. If this were a role-playing game, James Bond's luck is really high.
Yeah, James Bond's luck skill would be off the freaking charts.
Speaking of Jameses here, James Jameson,
Hey.
you and everybody else want to see that.
Oh, that would be fantastic. If he would do it, and if you would get him to sign off on this and he become a producer of this entire thing, I think that would elevate this project to something that would become a must-see event. Let's see. James says, like Netflix has done with Karate Kid and the Cobra Kai concept. Is that what you mean? It's a little closer to what they're doing with Reacher, except that instead of having books that you're playing off of, you're trying to take material that already exists and you're finding a way of threading them together to create a tighter narrative.
Right.
That's what I'm talking about. Let's see. James Jameson says, I have an Aussie friend who knew a stuntman from Mad Max 1. He sent me some great pictures from behind the scenes. I am sure you got great pictures out of that. Look, I love the first Mad Max film. It is funny. It is fun, but incredibly tragic. The scene with his wife and son, that's just brutal. And at the end of it, you just want him to just tear these guys apart.
Yeah.
You can see why he's Mad Max, okay? But I think this would be kind of a neat project. If they were to announce this, that would have an immediate sort of like wow factor to the entire thing. And as a side note, it's looking like they're going to go ahead and go for it with a brand new Lethal Weapon film. It looks like Mel Gibson has finished whatever work he's been trying to do. It's looking like they're going to move forward with, I think it's Lethal Weapon 5 or 6. I think it's 5.
Lethal Weapon 5. 22.
So, with certain cast members having passed away in the interim, it'll be interesting to see how we're going to do this story. Because Darlene Love, who was Mrs. Murtaugh, and who I love just seeing on screen, very talented lady with an incredible voice, is no longer with us. So Roger's not going to have his wife for this one.
Right.
And it'll be interesting to see what his life is like, because I think Renee Russo is still around. Her husband's still doing some cool stuff. Of course, Mel's still around. I think pretty much everybody else is still around. Well, wait a minute, except for the actor that played the who was their boss at the police department. I don't think he's around anymore. Be interesting if Roger Murtaugh actually became the boss.
He was already too old for this shit in the first one.
Wow.
So coming back around though to the Mad Max thing, just kind of giving this some thought. Mad Max has always, to me, had a similar feel to the Fallout series when you're looking at the first the first episodes of Fallout 1 and Fallout 2. As you get into Fallout 3 and 4, it's very similar, but Fallout 1 and 2 were very, very heavily Mad Max inspired. I mean, leather armor was basically Mad Max's jacket, missing one sleeve.
Yeah.
And I think you could do that. I think it was who said that earlier.
Thank you, Joe.
Mark's not dead, but they have to pretend he's still alive. Where was it? Chinatsky, yeah, I was saying as a series of fables doesn't work as a normal narrative. But I think if you take it from the point of view of, as the figure wandering the wasteland, you have a very kung fu narrative style. You have a very Route 66 narrative style. Basically, a road series.
Yeah.
I think it would be very, very, be very easy to adapt to that. Now,
so post-apocalyptic highwayman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you give him a mission, that he's constantly trying to follow. But this is the kind of thing you could do a 20 episode arc with, and
No, I would think that would be a mistake, given the nature of the movies, and Shanaski put it, it's a collection of fables. I wouldn't go for an overarching. I mean, seasons covering one quest per season. No, that would Mad Max should be a show of the fable of the week,
right?
Like, you have to envision this show like it's somebody telling the tales of Mad Max.
I think that could work. I think that could work.
I see what you're saying. That's a story device that was adapted for the second film. But from the point of view of the first film, I mean, really what we're talking about really is Star Trek Voyager in a Trek sort of way. You have someone who stood for, look, he was a policeman, is really what he was. And now the apocalypse has happened, and his wife and son got killed prior to all of that. So he's a policeman who was already pissed off. And the apocalypse happens, and now it's just him and the dog that he had at the end of the first movie. And now they're wandering the wasteland. And it's about, what someone who started out as a policeman, what do you do? Now, we've seen that kind of with a show like The Walking Dead. But where the Walking Dead comic had a cast of characters around him to be able to explore how that particular policeman did things. I don't know with Mad Max. I don't know how you could make that jive with the movies that have already been released. And I don't see how you could actually get away with doing anything without that having been brought up. If you tried to make your own TV series without referencing the movies or finding a way of doing something quote unquote new with the stories, what you're risking is losing the fans one way or another. If you do something in conjunction with the films and using the films as a touchstone, the way that I've suggested, you at least could keep a lot of your fans. You're not going to make everybody happy. Seriously, there's no way to make everybody happy.
True that.
Okay? What you can do is there's a risk assessment. How are you going to keep more people? How are you going to make more people happy than the amount of people that you would piss off? Okay.
Right.
And so really, if you decide to work within the confines of what you've been given, and you don't try to go and make everything too fancy, and try to act like you're smarter than the people that created this. I've always hated that. I'm serious. I've always hated anybody that's come along and tried to act smarter than the people that have created that which you are actually using as the basis for what you're doing. You're an idiot if you try to do that, because you're going to end up pissing off more people than you will attract people. That's a lesson that Netflix had to learn when they decided to adapt other material. It's the reason why One Piece works and Cowboy Bebop didn't. Cowboy Bebop failed because they thought they were smarter than the material that they were adapting. And they decided not to have the person who created Cowboy Bebop to be a part of what they were creating. One Piece, they did the exact opposite. And they invited in the creator of One Piece, who has been working with them every step of the way. Notice the reactions to both projects.
Mm-hmm.
And it happens every single time. Every single time you work with the creator and with the fans, you get a positive outcome. Whenever you think you're smarter than the material, smarter than the creators, smarter than the fans, you end up, it doesn't work out so much.
We're going to do it better. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's exactly how people feel about everything that Alex Kurtzman has touched as far as Star Trek, whether he's talking Discovery, all of it. He thinks he's smarter than the material, and he's not. He's dumb. He's really dumb. So, but
and so with Mad Max,
yes,
the temptation, I think, would be to add the Bard character who is telling the story, and I don't know that would work.
That's the reason why I said it should just be done as if you're starting with.
No, I know. Oh, I know what I would do. Oh my God! If you take the approach of it being a fable, throughout that's. You don't have the same character narrating it each time.
Mm-hmm.
You start with your opening narration about when Mad Max came to town. It's a different person narrating it each time because Mad Max is this legend from the wasteland. So everybody's got a story. Everybody's got a story, about Mad Max.
And they don't have to coincide. They don't have to work well with one another because they are damn stories told from different people with different points of view.
Yeah.
That's it.
So I mean, it's almost like Star Wars Visions. You have a whole series of stories about different things, but with a little bit better continuity. Yeah, I think that would work so well. You basically have different narrators opening and ending each one, which gives you so much freedom in how you do the episodes.
And you avoid the hell of canon breaking because there's no canon. It's a collection of fables, and that's it.
Well, and you. What it also does is lets your lead character, your lead actor, really flex their chops in acting according to the narrator's lens, the narrator's own bias. You know what I'm saying?
You know what? With doing it like that,
it
would really depend on ultimately. In my opinion, and if I were running things, it would ultimately depend on what George Miller wants to do. George Miller is still with us. And again, if we could somehow get, have it to where, well, I was going to say, if we could somehow have it to where Mel Gibson really wants to do this, by having George Miller and Mel Gibson as part of it, both of them as producers. And then we get Mel to commit to doing the final episode. Not so much the final season, but the final episode. Because it's open-ended once you get past Thunderdome. Okay? If we could get Mel Gibson to just sign up to do this one more time, I think ultimately this could be a blowout event. It would be truly a must-see worldwide event. And if you could...
you'd almost have to have him film the last episode and hold it in the can forever. Because
it's not an on. No. I wouldn't make this an ongoing series. I wouldn't try to stretch it out. That's the reason why I said it had to be a limited series. You just have to decide how many seasons you're going to do between the films. Okay. Right. Are you going to wait like 2 seasons before the first and second movie? Because it has been a few years. Okay. Between the end of the first movie, when he jumps into the interceptor and brings the dog in, and they head out across the wasteland. The thing is, how do you get from there to the events of Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior? Okay, and then that's when you get the little kid, or at least the adult version of that little kid telling the story. That's who you're listening to going into the second film.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, Martin, you freaking genius, you. Doing it the way that Martin says is very freeing. It allows a lot of writers to come up with stuff and not have to pay as much attention to canon and blah, 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 blah. But what I'm saying is I would still, for the first season, not do that. If you do, you'd have to base it on something like... because that stuff you would actually have records for. You'd actually know a lot about Max. I think if you do that, you do it slightly different than how you would do it with all the other seasons to follow. Okay? You would set it up to be more of a realistic thing. And maybe as the show progresses, get into the more fantastical elements and different stories. That's how I would do it. I would keep it pretty much straightforward in the first season, leading into the first movie. Because really, if you think about it, it's not just about how other people see him. It's also Max himself. You know, his whole mental way, his whole way of viewing things changes once his wife and son are killed. Before that, he is a cop, first and foremost. And he's a cop that's out for vengeance because his friends got turned into hamburger. And then his wife and son get killed. You know, he tried to avoid this. He tried to run away from it. He tried to get them out of the way, and it didn't work. So for Max, there is no more going back. From the very beginning, his journey has always been about going forward. And he's headed towards something. The thing is, we've never known what. And even with the way that Martin suggested to do this, you still don't know. You know, you have no idea. But we might find out in the end. You know, the very last episode. And I'm not talking about keeping this around for you. Look, if the show were to become a monster hit, that would depend on what George Miller and Mel Gibson want to do. I can see extended it, but I wouldn't extend it too far. You've got 3 classic, cool movies. Play to that. And on top of that, this becomes a must-see thing because then everybody out there is going to have to actually go out and either watch and or buy those 3 films. So this will keep the parent company happy because it allows them to actually do something with something they already own. You know, that's the reason why every time you adapt anything, that really is the basis for trying to do a lot of things. You own it, that means sales go up and you make more money from something that you've already owned. Okay. That trilogy of movies becomes more important. And you could do little in-universe things like you do little in-universe things. It's like, say, for season 2 of the show, you'd have to decide when the whole world changes. Do we actually show it, or do we kind of imply it and then go from there? And maybe even have something like Max's radio picks up different things going on, including the airliner that goes down with all the kids on it.
Mm-hmm.
You could do little things like that. Stuff that references or kind of gives you little previews of things to come in a weird sort of way. Yes, no, maybe nothing, really?
I don't know.
Hey, what's this say? Shinatsky, let's see. Keith, get Terry Hayes, George Miller, and Brian Hannett. They wrote Road Warrior. It was a team. Uh-huh. Oh, the reason why I keep bringing up George Miller is that legally he has all the rights. Okay, I'm pretty sure whatever team of writers you had work on whatever, that's great. But when it comes to the character of Mad Max, it was owned and is still owned by George Miller and Byron Kennedy. And Byron Kennedy is no longer with us, so that just leaves George Miller. He, in my opinion, is the final authority. And since he's still making stuff and he still wants to make stuff, if you're going to put this past him, you need to make sure you get his blessing. Because if you don't, I wouldn't even attempt this. I'm sure some idiot would. I would. If George Miller comes out and says, no. And I'll tell you this much. If George Miller came out and said no, I'm sure Mel Gibson would say no. I'm pretty sure. So I get it,
Right.
Anyway, the next one,
Mm-hmm.
number 3, because I love doing the whole countdown thing.
Right.
I
love your title for this one.
What?
The Trek fan in you is strong.
I didn't actually name this. I'll tell you
Mhm.
after the show. I'll tell you where the name came from. Godfather: The Next Generation. Which again, I admit,
TNG.
I will admit that's a very bad name. Seriously.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say, is where the next Godfather is going to be Italian, but speaks with a Jersey accent, or
Yeah, and
or it's going to be Italian and speaks with an English accent. It's like, why do all the Three Musketeers have an English accent? They're French. Anyway, Godfather, Next Generation.
when you consider the whole it's payback really for King Arthur, because when you think about it, who's the greatest knight? Lancelot.
Mhm.
Who's the one that can do anything, and who's the one that ultimately gets Guinevere? It's Lancelot. Well, you do realize Lancelot's French.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's payback.
Well, the English are going, oh yeah, we're going to take your Frenchy characters and we're going to turn them English. Bastards.
Complete payback.
They
Complete
still
payback.
haven't gotten they still haven't gotten over 1066 Hastings.
Anyway,
1,000 years. Anyways.
I would bring Francis Ford Coppola in on this project.
Mm-hmm.
Because really, why would you not? He's got a lot of time on his hands. Okay. And considering that, first of all, mad respect for this guy, because he broke the cardinal rule which is he decided to make something and he used his own money. And that's a cardinal rule within the business of Hollywood. You never really want to use your own money.
Right.
Okay. And there's a reason for that. Before, I can see a lot of people going, yeah, but it shows his commitment. True. But in the words of one of my favorite characters, John Sheridan, you spin the wheel, you take your chances. And he spun the wheel and he crapped out. That last movie he put out did not do well at all. He needed that film, I think, to make like just $10 million. And it didn't even do that. I say take advantage of his knowledge. Take advantage of the fact that he is still a very talented guy, even though a lot of people didn't see this last movie. And do this. Because Godfather 3 is still very controversial for many Godfather fans. Even I'm of two minds, you know. First time I ever saw it, I was devastated. It's a devastating ending. And I kind of vacillate between either it's good or it's bad sometimes, depending on when you catch me. But Andy Garcia's character really is your way forward. And Andy Garcia is available. I say get him and do this thing. And let Francis Ford Coppola really guide us into the modern day here. Because I think Andy Garcia's character is really the 1980s. It's the 1980s. So what we're talking about is doing something that allows us to meet up with the Corleone family now. So Andy Garcia would basically be where his Uncle Michael was in Godfather 3. He didn't have the same sort of look at everything. Andy Garcia's character is a little more of the violent side, a little bit. And I would move forward like that. That's what I would do. And again, I know it's very controversial. Some people was like, oh no, don't do that. Don't do anything with no, leave it as it is. My whole thing is if you get Francis Ford Coppola and he wants to move forward with it, I say let him. I think it'd be a good idea to do that. If you let Francis Ford Coppola have his way. Let this be a project that he can do anything he wants with it. But it would have to be Coppola and Andy Garcia. You get those two, you're golden. What do you guys think?
So, not being a fan of the Godfather series myself, I'm gonna have to sit back and say nope on that one. I'm not a big fan of mafia type shows or or anything like that. So I would have no valuable opinion on this because I have no informed opinion on it.
Okay.
I can see where there would be an interest in it because the Godfather movies were just just massive,
Yeah.
And all the Godfather movies just seem to be all about who killed who, and how tragic can we make it.
Well, it's a tragic way of life.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why I look at it and go, nope. It is it at its base something I just can't look at and go, yeah, let's glorify that.
Yeah, that was the thing in my mind. I mean, I love the three movies. Yes, all three of them. Fight me. But those movies in the end do not glorify. You see the thing, and when you see the way in which Michael's life ends from his final years, you understand that
Mhm.
He's not glorified. He's beaten by himself, by the life he
Mhm.
chose, and that's okay. Give it, make the story that way. But if you get into a TV show,
Mhm.
and I love the Garcia's character, but I, I don't know. Even as a fan of the original material, I don't know if I could stand one season, let alone multiple season of glorifying that kind of thing. I couldn't.
Yeah.
Yep. You know what? I see exactly what you guys are saying. I do.
Yeah.
And again, my whole thing is creating a limited series, not an ongoing series, a limited series. But again, the thing is, we've already got shows like this already on.
Hey, wait. An interesting idea here. How about Connie taking over the business?
Jeez.
That would be something to behold because she was a warmonger.
Wow.
She became a warmonger. Remember?
Yes.
She stopped being a sweet little Connie and she was let's kill all of them. Michael, kill all of them.
Yeah.
Again,
We already have the Sopranos that it would have to be competing with.
well, not just Sopranos. There's a current TV show that I think season 2 is getting ready to drop, and the cast for that is still amazing. You know,
Which one are you talking about?
that's the one that they have on. I think it's on Netflix. It's the one starring Pierce Brosnan and Helen Mirren, and
Oh yeah, okay, I've heard of it.
yeah.
Well, and then you have Tulsa King,
Yes.
which I get it. It's not but from what I've heard, Stallone's performance in that is just amazing. But
Well,
it's
all of it,
still-
all of the Taylor Sheridan stuff is fantastic.
Mhm.
And that to me is about right, because again, he's coming at this as someone who used to be an actor, still is technically, that has gotten into creating television shows, and he's gotten really good at it. All of his shows rock. I think my favorite. Oh, go ahead.
Which I'm thinking, man, he should have done this earlier, but
Probably. I really like Landman. That's my favorite of his. But I like all of his shows. Yellowstone. I even watched the new Yellowstone spinoff. Marshals. I love Marshals. Dealing with the aftermath of the end of Yellowstone. And they're going to keep, newsflash, they're going to keep going with the pre-Yellowstone miniseries that they keep doing.
1923 or whatever.
Yeah, they're getting ready to do 1943 is, I think, the one they're getting ready to do.
Right.
It's 1943 is the next one. Yes, James, finally you took my advice. The Gentleman television series, the one that they have on Netflix. I love that. They should have been nominated for way more Emmys and should have won way more Emmys than they did. That entire cast for The Gentleman is fantastic. And I cannot wait to see season 2 because of the way they ended it. And it was just like, oh my goodness, this is something big, But I think the secret to doing it is how you think about it. And Coppola's already explained how he thinks about it, which is it's very Shakespearean. Michael's story within The Godfather is very Shakespearean. And what The Godfather 3 deals with is someone who is trying to get out. He's trying to get out, but he's fighting forces beyond him who keep steering everything towards, I mean, I like to think of it that Michael is trapped around the time of Godfather 3. He feels
he is
trapped, and he's trying to swim upstream, and everything that's been set up, everything that he has in his life that has been touched by what he's been doing is trying to force him back the other way. Whether you're talking about flying to Rome and meeting with the Pope or various politicians, everything is pointing for him to continue to go down this road that he's always been going down. And you get this distinct feeling that maybe he 1 year too late in trying to turn things around, And that's what makes it sad, because ultimately he paid a price.
Yeah.
A very high price for.
And a lot of it seems like it's not a price he hadn't really had much choice in paying.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like a lot of that was chosen for it.
Yes. Mobland. Thank you, James. That's the name of the show, Mobland. Great cast in that one. And then again, I'm a big fan of Helen Mirren because she just freaking rocks. And I find it kind of weird that both she and Pierce Brosnan get to do two different shows together, and they're excellent in both of those. The Tuesday Murder Club is the other show. I remember talking about that a few weeks back, and those of you out there who've contacted me since you started watching it, yeah. Tuesday Murder Club. That's on Netflix. That's so much fun to be watching these people on a show like that. I mean, they are just so much fun. And again, after all the violence and stuff that you see in Mobland, it's nice to see these actors playing a different group of characters who are way nicer and a lot more fun to be with. So, but that was my other idea. I thought, having a Godfather limited series could actually do something. But it may not be everybody's cup of tea. But for number 2, I have really technically 2 pitches, but it's really all a part of the same thing. Given the discussion that Ben and Martin and I have had really over the last few years about Star Trek, it's a given that if you're going to do anything to get people excited, you're going to have to put Star Trek somewhere into this. And to me, I think the first thing they need to do is just announce and go ahead and greenlight the Star Trek United idea. First and foremost, that is something that has absolutely nothing to do with Kurtzman. That is outside of their contract and outside of the agreed stuff that they have with Secret Hideout. Meaning that they can go ahead and make that pretty much under what I would like to say is the original Star Trek contract. The people that
predates anything that he would do. Yeah.
Well, and Kurtzman gets nothing out of it. He can't stop it. He can't add anything to it. He can't do anything. You stay as far away from anything that Kurtzman actually introduced in any. You cannot use anything that was a part of Kurtzman at all. You can't use any ideas, any concepts, or even characters. That keeps Kurtzman from being able to make any money. Anytime you use anything in conjunction with Kurtzman makes money off of. Okay? So that YouTube series that they got for kids, you got a little girl there that's dressed like one of the members of the Discovery crew. Kurtzman gets a piece of that.
Yeah. But,
okay.
Yeah. But so focusing on the project itself, I like.
Yes, Star Trek United. sounds fantastic to me. It's look, I love the fact that you're reuniting. Technically, you have someone that worked on Enterprise that had this idea and has been working with Scott Bakula to put it together. To me, this is look. The main reason why we can now understand, because of the contract that Kurtzman had, why they didn't go ahead and greenlight this from the very first pitch, because they couldn't. Paramount had no power. They would have had to have allowed Kurtzman. First of all, Kurtzman would have had to sign off on it. And knowing him, he probably would have attempted to alter the premise so that he could make some money off it. And to me, we don't need Kurtzman anywhere near this concept. You know, they needed to just get rid of him, shuffle him off someplace else, and make this work. James Jameson, Star Trek is cooked, he says, in the same bin as Star Wars. Look, anything is possible if you have the right people working on it. Kurtzman is not one of the right people. And again, that whole thing about not wanting to hire anybody that's a Star Trek fan, that to me right there signifies that he should have been let go long ago. The thing about it is, the people that were responsible for hiring Kurtzman, the people who were directly on his side, were CBS. You know, the people who never had the rights to Star Trek originally. Paramount had no control over anything. And because of the contract that CBS and Les Moonves gave him, you pretty much gave somebody full control over an IP that made you money, both in terms of people watching all of the shows connected to it, all of the movies connected to it, and buying all of the merchandise. And you put somebody in control who you didn't care about all of that because you originally weren't making any money from it. So you let this guy have it and he ruined it. That's the best way to interpret it. You know, when you look at merchandising sales, which they have, when you look at ratings, which they have, this guy took a big giant dump on Star Trek and tried to basically sell people in the fact that this is a creative idea. This is a creative expression. Look at what I did. And you will worship at the altar of telling me how much of a genius that I am. And when you had people that would step up and say, nope, that's not any good, and then he'd throw a hissy fit. You know, he's a child. I think Star Trek United could work.
Mm-hmm.
And with Scott Bakula coming back, and you would have cameo appearances from some of the other cast members, but the main focus would be Bakula's Jonathan Archer and what he would be doing as president
right
of the Federation.
See, and there's one real downer to the last episode of Enterprise, and that's that they killed off Trip. Spoilers.
You can retcon that easy.
Because in the novels, he's not dead. That death was feigned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you can take that line and bring him back.
I would do that in a heartbeat.
Yep.
I mean,
you're my daughter. Oh my God, she was going to have a fit when he died.
Yeah.
Well, that whole thing with look, everybody realizes it's a mistake. Even the people that quote unquote wrote that episode have admitted that it was a mistake to do that. Okay, so retconning it is easy. I think everybody agrees we should probably retcon that episode.
In fact,
and
not doing so.
Whole,
not doing so would be a mistake.
Yeah.
Well, given that episode was primarily presented as a holodeck on the next gen.
Yeah.
You know, I think, that would, it would almost completely disregard that. You know,
Yes.
I mean, just to act like much of it did not happen. You know,
That or the historical records from that period of time. Remember, you're talking going, Next Generation is set 78 years after
right?
the original Star Trek series. So then what? Enterprise is set another 100 years before. So that's, there you go. You know, you could say that records from that time period weren't really as complete as they thought. And there were certain things that were listed a certain way that didn't exactly happen. I mean, the Enterprise crew itself on the original series talked about how there were gaps in the history of the Federation that they, you know, going back in time or having access to the Guardian forever. That's the real reason why they were that interested in all of the material it was putting out, because there were things that were missing.
You could say that they use ChatGPT 3 million to reconstruct all the blanks, and that they hallucinated to hell.
Right?
There you go. Martin wins it today. Gold star, Martin. I love it. Oh man. Yeah, you could bring Trick
James, if they bring Trip back as a hologram, I will do bad things. Very, very bad things.
God, no, man. Just that's I hate the very idea of that.
No.
Bobby Ewing moment too, James? Really? Come on, JJ. There's a lot of people in this room that probably have no idea who Bobby Ewing is. Thank you, Power Ranger Donnie. And yes, let me just say for the record, I haven't seen a lot of your posts. Dude, congratulations with the upcoming Power Ranger stuff that's coming up. Look, man, Power Rangers is just, it's its own thing. I mean, you are an idiot if you can't see how big of a thing Power Rangers is. I hope that Alex Kurtzman doesn't get a hold of you guys, because he's gonna. Tommy has a sister that he never knew about. She's better at everything than Tommy. She taught Tommy everything he ever did. Oh man, that would ruin Power Rangers, man. I just think that some way of bringing back one of these characters that people really enjoyed is a good thing for Star Trek. And the thing about it is, and this is the lucky thing for Star Trek as a whole, because of Enterprise and when it takes place, everyone that has ever really monkeyed with Star Trek hasn't been able to touch Enterprise at all. Enterprise has not been touched at all. It has not been altered at all, because they haven't figured out a way of going back that far to do it. Okay? So Kurtzman never could figure out a way of touching Enterprise. I'm sure he thought about it. I'm sure he tried real hard to figure out a way of getting to Enterprise and couldn't do it.
Sure, he wanted to.
I'm sure he wanted to big time. You know, I'm sure he looked at Enterprise and said, "There's a lot wrong with that show. I can fix it though. Just can't figure out how to get there."
Right.
But that's the obvious idea. But the other thing that I would do, and this would be something that isn't as obvious, but is kind of cool in my opinion. Have Skydance Animation adapt the Planet of the Titans script, aka the original first Star Trek movie script. And don't alter any of the characters. Don't add any characters that weren't in there. Do that script. Make it. with John Lasseter and the team that he has, that would be amazing if they were to make a featured animated film version of Planet of the Titans. That entire script would just be a freaking amazing. And it comes directly from Gene Roddenberry himself. You still have a few of the actors still alive. You can recreate the voices of several other characters, several other actors.
Mm-hmm.
And I see no reason why they couldn't do this. You know, what do you guys think?
Again, this is one I'm not as familiar with as I should be, but I like the initial concept. You know, anything that builds on, on something that DC has, especially if it's been fairly recently released, I think is going to have a strong appeal, simply because you're not redoing something that's been done before, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. What do you think, Martin?
I reserve my judgment.
Okay. You're probably not as familiar with Planet of the Titans, so I think neither one of you guys are probably as familiar with.
Well, I have seen all the episodes of all the shows multiple times, but I do admit, and this applies to every show that I have ever seen, I can never remember the names of the episodes. So
wait a
just,
second.
just tell me the Planet of the Titans. What happened in the episode, please?
No. Wait. Ooh, the time.
So Planet of the Titans, I'm sorry, I was ahead of where we were. Planet of the Titans was an unproduced Star Trek film.
That's right. That was the original first script that was put together for the very first Star Trek film. The idea was to do that. And they had Ralph McQuarrie, who worked on Star Wars, to envision a lot of stuff. He's the one that created his original idea for the bridge of the Enterprise, the look of the Enterprise, everything. He changed. The people who made not the people, because that's wrong. That's not the truth. When Brian Fuller was hired by Paramount to eventually create what eventually became Star Trek Discovery, Brian Fuller, who actually worked on Star Trek, he worked on, I think it's DS9 and Voyager. Big Star Trek fan, watched every single episode of the original 79 series, 79 episodes, multiple times. He grew up as a major Star Trek fan. He knew about this movie and decided to use the Enterprise ship design from this movie to create the ship for all the characters in Star Trek Discovery. Okay. When Kurtzman got Fuller removed and took all of his notes and rewrote them badly, he kept the starship design, but he made some alterations to it, like the whole how the inner ring turns and does all this weird stuff, and all that other weird stuff he added that was not originally part of anything. That's all Kurtzman's. All of the magic stuff that they can do in Star Trek now, that's all Kurtzman. I would love to see Fuller come back and I would love Paramount to actually do his version of Star Trek Discovery, because I think there would be a lot of people who would really enjoy that. Yeah, that's where the design of the Discovery comes from.
I am with you on that, RPG. The ugliest piece of color ever. Oh my god, I hate
I'm
it.
not saying that you have to revive that ship design, but if you were going to do Brian Fuller's original version of it, it would be way better.
Yeah,
way better.
Bear in mind too that design is really is just concept art.
Yes.
And no concept art survives contact with the production crew. And it's just, I mean, originally the Enterprise was supposed to be upside down.
Yeah. The way it was drawn and when it was interpreted by the
No, not the Enterprise, the Reliant.
No, the Enterprise itself also. That's also part of the story of the Enterprise itself for the original television series.
Is well, and if you go back and look at some of the, I think it was like one of the original, the Daedalus class was part of the original concept art for the Enterprise. That big ball on the front instead of a saucer section.
Yeah, I that was a unique design. Some of those design artworks appeared in Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
Right. Well, and I actually enjoy the concept of the original Daedalus design. It feels like something you would see in the Star Trek Enterprise era. You know what I'm saying?
In the early era, because remember, all those characters and all that stuff was post. That's all retcon stuff. Again, nothing against Enterprise. I enjoy Enterprise, but it is easy to think that all of that is really just a massive mistake. That was a retcon of a retcon. Basically, Jonathan Archer and the Enterprise from that particular version of history originally didn't exist, which is the reason why you don't see it on the Enterprise in Star Trek: The Motion Picture, while you don't really see any of that stuff even in Star Trek First Contact. There are no references to the NX-01 program because it didn't exist. It didn't exist until after the events of Star Trek First Contact. Because the Enterprise crew failed to do all of the stuff that they were supposed to do in having contact with people from the past. That's one of the things. That's the biggest break right there. For all of the violations that Kirk had over his lifetime, the biggest violation was actually committed by Captain Picard and his crew, because they did not. And that's actually a part of the storyline of Enterprise itself. That makes its way into Enterprise itself. So,
which is kind of hilarious because Kirk violated the Prime Directive
multiple times.
Yeah,
but the biggest one was considered to be the one by Captain Picard because of what happened,
which would have violated the time directives.
Well, it already altered everything after that. Okay, you now are launching starships that are, first of all, of a particular design when they originally weren't like that. They don't have shielding because you've changed First Contact. Okay, you have Vulcans who are a little more the Vulcans reacted differently. Unlike the original version of First Contact, they're not as eager to share all of their information. So we're having to use things like multi-plate shielding rather than having shields. And so we ended up technologically being not not at the level that we were originally during the history of the of Earth from the point of view of Captain Kirk and Mr. Spock when you first meet them in Where No Man Has Gone Before is different than the history that you have after the events of First Contact. Captain Kirk did not know any Jonathan Archer. He probably would have liked Jonathan Archer, but he didn't know who he was. He had no knowledge of any of that because it didn't exist. T'Pol never existed. Trip Tucker never existed. None of those characters exist. That's not me trying to be bad to the Enterprise creators, but again, this is what one of their writers had said. This is what you get into, though, when you start doing retcons of the past. You get into a lot of really sticky stuff. And
Time shenanigans.
Yeah, his whole thing was that you should have never have done it. You should always move forward with Star Trek and don't worry about going backwards unless it's to clarify something, but don't add new characters and add new things that try to do things with what, you're trying to retroactively recreate the past, because then you get into problems. And it becomes
as much as I love Enterprise, it is a risky business going to the past.
Yeah.
You shouldn't do that. You're risking to step on your own hose.
But that also explains why it was easy to introduce a character like Daniels, because now the timeline's already been damaged. Archer shouldn't exist anyway. Him knowing certain things about the future doesn't really hurt too much, because technically all of this should not exist. That's the thing about that they kept in Enterprise that was kind of like a way of trying to appease any mistakes that they do come up with. That said, I love that cast. I do.
Yeah.
I love that cast. I like all of the characters. I love it. But that doesn't.
Well, see, and there's something I love about that particular cast, like Hoshi.
Yes.
Knowing multiple languages, which I think indirectly begins to influence how we see Uhura in the future.
Yeah,
because I love what original series did with Uhura, as she is a competent officer. She is, she can repair a panel just like any other Starfleet officer. She's not just an operator. She can jump on helm or ops or tactical, just like any officer. But when you start with your first comms officer, being like Hoshi, speaking multiple languages and things like that, afterwards we start to see Uhura showing those same abilities, being good at languages, being good at at the things that we see, like in the Abrams Enterprise. She's able to pull this distress signal out of the ether and go, this matches what I know. I like that it had that positive influence on characters like Uhura. Like that, that T'Pol, shows up, as another kind of Vulcan. So yeah, I like the impact that it had.
Yeah, and again, love those characters. It didn't help with all the other stuff, though. It didn't help with the fact that you have starships that are all Vulcan crew. It didn't help the fact that you had a Federation that had a different history and a different way of going about things. That the Vulcans were not the keepers of knowledge of the galaxy. They weren't trying at all to stop humans.
Mhm.
In the Enterprise version of that history, yes, they did. Archer has a little bit of a grudge against the Vulcans, and the Vulcans had their reasons for doing things because the humans that they ended up meeting, weren't that far removed from having a massive war themselves.
Right.
And
And not only that, but you've seen throughout history what the humans do with technology.
Yes, but what I'm trying to get to is the history, though, that they did have. A lot of that occurred later, after humanity had already had a few things happen. After they made their way to other planets on their own, after they've already established a few things. Now, did they still have bad stuff happen? Yes. You still had people like Colonel Green. But that's after First Contact. And you had Green and his people, which brought back a kind of ugliness that humans had. They still had to get over their own personal prejudices about quote unquote aliens this time around.
Right.
And I guess the biggest thing was that it changed the history of warp flight. You now see a different version of how humans got warp flight than the version that Kirk and Spock do, and the history that they had. Zefram Cochrane disappeared. Now Zefram Cochrane's a guy who is there to launch all these ships, and he's the godfather of warp flight, and he's able to do. He becomes a symbol, and that's not Zefram Cochrane. That's the post Enterprise. Captain Picard made that possible.
You see, I have a problem with that logic that even Shinaski was using. The fact that Zefram Cochrane was in the Enterprise universe, that does not negate the possibility that he still gets fed up, goes on a ship, and then ends up in that alien planet.
True.
One thing does not negate the other.
It does not necessarily do that. You're right.
Yeah.
But he's not as paranoid. I mean, that's the thing. When you see him, he's very paranoid. And that's one of the things that they talk about. Again, all that stuff was put in there on purpose by the people who made the show. Because if they were wanting this to be the quote unquote official history, they didn't have to put all that stuff in there. Because every piece of information alters the timeline that much further. If the Enterprise crew had done what they were supposed to have done, you may still have had Jonathan Archer. Who knows? You may have still had the NX-01. Who knows? But they didn't do what they should have done. They didn't wipe everybody's memories. Cochrane should have nobody really should have any knowledge of the Borg. None. That is not a thing. And to have knowledge prior to Q introducing the Enterprise D crew to the Borg, to have that knowledge disrupts the timeline. It also turns Data and the Enterprise D crew into liars. Automatically.
Unless the timeline itself actually changed. And at the time, we're seeing the unaltered version. Or perhaps we're seeing an altered version, and this is the one that was supposed to happen anyways.
Yeah, there's always that. Okay, there's always that. But I mean, there's a lot of little things attached. There's a lot of different ways to go.
Yeah, because I mean, what is the Starfleet temporal department going to do to the Borg? It's like Phyllis from Imperial HR showing up and giving them a write up.
Mhm.
You know, we're going to demote you. You know,
Well, it's a
um,
lot of connecting stuff. You know, it
mhm,
could have been that the timeline was so damaged that to try to go back and redo whatever would have
would
damaged
have
it
damaged
more.
it further. Exactly.
You
You know,
know, and
because if
so
or all that could have been, you know, also, you know, First Contact would have been a much shorter movie if, you know, the Starfleet Temporal Division just showed up and zapped the Borg escape pod before it went into the past.
true, true. They could have disguised themselves as another ship
Right?
and actually did what it needed to do. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because now what you're talking about is, oh, the Borg were always going to head to Earth. They received a signal, and they're always no. You can't have that. That gets into
Right.
a lot of weird stuff there. You know,
Right.
you're starting to go down a road that becomes untenable after a while. This is what
Right.
Ronald D. Moore was talking about. You can't do that. You
Right.
might as well continue to push forward. Going
Mhm.
backward only leads to problems. And uh, it again, a good example is, you know, you get someone like Akiva Goldsman who believes, you know, with all these changes, we just need to make changes so we can keep up and not really
Right.
change anything. And it's like,
Right. Well, and
yeah, but your
Shinatsky
actions
makes
say
yeah.
different. Your actions say way different.
Well, and Shinatsky makes a good point here. Mark Twain and Lincoln, in Next Generation, didn't erase their memories. They had validation.
Actually, that wasn't really Lincoln.
Yeah.
You remember that's not Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
None of those people are real.
Right.
It's it's based. Okay, there was a thing that dove into Captain Kirk's memories to create Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
It was based on Captain Kirk's knowledge and his admiration, just like
Right.
Surak was Spock. It came from his brain.
Right.
Okay,
But
all
but
those
Mark,
characters that you see in that episode are not time travel. It's an amalgamation. It's basically like
Mhm.
being in a holodeck, and it's an advanced holodeck program that recreates those characters.
Now Shinatsky is saying Twain is the real one.
Yeah,
No.
Twain is the real one. Yes.
Guys.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I need to go.
Okay.
Yeah, we're over 2 hours.
Yeah, we're over 2 hours. Number one on the list that I had was the Dakotaverse. Basically getting basically having Lord and Miller and animator producer James Tucker team up and tackle the Dakotaverse, which really is and give them the rights to basically do all of that in animation, to tackle Icon, Static, all those characters, and to do that for those particular characters that are now part of this entire company, both Paramount and Warner Brothers, but this is all a Warner Brothers thing. And Lord and Miller, really, a couple of their people had pitched Warner Brothers before about doing a Batman Beyond movie. You can find the drawings for that online.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you, whatever Warner Brothers idiot that said no to doing a Batman Beyond film from Lord and Miller and their production team, well, by now they've been fired, but they should have been immediately fired because that stuff looked phenomenal. But I think Lord and Miller have already shown that they have a great interest in trying characters that aren't really traditional and really doing all of that stuff with the Dakotaverse would automatically register as that. You know, I don't know. I know a lot of you guys are not as familiar with those characters. But let me tell you, that would be fantastic. Okay, just look up Milestone Media. Okay, look up Icon, look up Static. Trust me, Lord and Miller would do a fantastic job with the entire Dakotaverse. And putting those guys together with James Tucker would be the ultimate thing. And to do that as just a series of either direct-to-home video films or even making, I think they should just have Icon as a major movie event that you could have in theaters before you put it on streaming. That would be fantastic. Michael B. Jordan could actually get a chance to actually play the character, since it looks like Warner Brothers wasn't interested in casting him for a live-action movie. So, anyway, that's that. Those were my thoughts. That's the top 5 things that they could do that would really get fans interested.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys think?
Sorry.
Bless you.
God bless you.
Thank you. I would, of the ones, I think I would put them in different order. I would like to see a Mad Max, anthology or, series. I'd love to see Star Trek United, even with the time travel concerns.
Yes.
And, I think those would be my top 2.
Cool.
So.
I agree. Well, then again, I like it all because I suggested it. But I mean, I like it all. And again, Scott, any chance to get Scott Bakula on TV,
right,
to me should be taken. And playing Jonathan Archer, which is a character I really loved seeing him play, right. Getting him. I mean,
and I just realized the irony of the fact that Scott Bakula is starring in a series that fucks with time.
You're just now getting it.
I'm just going. He's actually not Jonathan Archer. He's he's Sam Beckett.
He has been on that bridge for 5 years, waiting to what do I have to do to jump again?
Right, waiting for Al to show up, and Al's they're going, where the hell did he go?
Well,
evidently the theory was wrong. He can jump outside his own life. Well, in Quantum Leap, he broke the timeline. So in theory, that could have, set him free to go into the far future.
Well, Jonathan Archer is supposed to have 4 sons in this. Mm-hmm. And each one is doing different things. One's working with his dad in government, and the other 3 are off doing other things. And I think it would, I think they kept pitching it as sort of like Star Trek's own version of the West Wing.
Right.
Which I find fascinating, but still kind of hard to picture. But hey, considering who's doing it, I'm gonna just like, you guys just do what you need to do, make it, and I want to see that.
Right.
Let me experience it.
Right.
I also like the whole Mission Impossible thing, because to me, if you use the universe that had been set up by the movies, then it creates something different than a lot of the other shows that have been trying to do the same thing in recent years. Right. You get past any sort of talk about it being too similar to this or that if you use the universe the way that the movies have set it up.
Right. Well, I think, and we're Midwest signing off.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. Look. If it's any consolation, okay, I'm going to go and try to complete watching the final 20 minutes of Starfleet Academy where I left off, and see if it gets any better for me. If I end up in the emergency room, you'll know what happened. And yeah. Well, listen, let me just say thank you to Power Ranger Donnie, Blacka 25, JJ Jameson, James Caserta, and Morrow, Big G, James Moncrief, Real Popcorn Geek, our good friend Shanatsky, Gambit, and the lovely Penny. Again, I appreciate all of you taking time out to come in and sit with us while we wax poetic. Later to you too, Penny. You're awesome. I just think that it surprises me every week to see all you people show up and to even hear back from others who can't really join us while we're doing the live version of the show. I'm still amazed that there are people that are still listening to me do what I do. I can understand why you're wanting to listen to Ben and Martin because they're smart guys, but I can't figure out why anyone's listening to me. So anyway, thank you very much, and remember to like, share, subscribe, and if you get an opportunity, check out any of the other programs that we have here on the Pop Culture Minefield Network, usually because, Martin will be there in some capacity. And he's just that cool. And I guess I will see you guys next week. Ben, Martin, got anything to say?
No, just have a good rest of your week and a good weekend.
Yes. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a nice day, everybody. And bye.
Y'all come back now, you hear?
Matt Damon.